Hello, 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 hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Gordon. Let's go here. And all right, everybody. Welcome to the Capital Gains Deferred Sales Trust Crypto Mastermind. My name is Brett Swarts. For those who don't know, I'm founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions, and we're very passionate about helping people defer tax when it comes to selling cryptocurrency, businesses, real estate, anything that has a huge gain, and you're looking at like tax, like big tax. I'm talking 30 to 50% in tax. And you're saying, wow, there's got to be a better way than a 1031 exchange, a better way than just giving it all away to charity, a better way than having to have a bunch of kids and do a bunch of gifting. And so we believe that the amount of tax that's going to transfer in the next 30 years creates an opportunity to keep the wealth in the hands of the people versus the hands of the government, who waste it away pretty quickly. And we want to use every legal proven strategy possible that's available to us, so that we can keep the funds in our friends, family, clients' hands. By the way, so do a lot of other people too. In fact, I'm coming out with a book, and it's called Building a Tax Deferred Exit Strategy. And we have some amazing people that are part of the book, including one of my business partners, financial extraordinaire, CPA whisper, Jake Miller. Jake, how you doing today?
Doing very well. How's my audio today, Brett?
Your audio sounds loud and clear, and most importantly, your hair is even probably better than it was last week, which is hard to say with the Jake Miller. But Jake, where are you calling from today? Where are your travels taking you?
Today I'm in the fabulous Mazatlan, Mexico. I was just in Cabo and then I went across the Gulf. Now I'm in Mazatlan, working with some people doing some big projects down here, and it's very exciting.
That is fantastic. And yeah, we were just in Cabo. Man, a week has gone by so fast. We were just there masterminding with EXP commercial people, EXP realty people. I mean, just amazing. Anyone gets an opportunity to check out EXP, we want to check that out. I'm also with our other business partner, Mr. Pierce York, who is taking over the podcast slowly but surely. Pierce York, how is the Newport Beach area doing today?
It's amazing. It's really nice out here. Things are rocking and rolling. So we're just we're going. Got myself some new fancy surroundings. So it's all good.
And Pierce, so why are we here?
Why are we here in the mastermind?
Mastermind. Give us the vision for the mastermind.
The vision for the mastermind. So I think this is a place that we can come and learn about the Deferred Sales Trust, ask questions, get familiar with the team and the rock stars that we kind of bring together, bring to you, and then also to understand it more, hear deal stories, and just get comfortable with the process, and just share ideas back and forth and grow and learn together.
That's perfect. And Pierce, for those who don't know, I've been mentoring him for about 5-6 years now. And he's from my hometown. We're from my hometown. He was in my Bible study years ago, and now he's married. He's got 3 daughters. He's chasing me. I've got 4
totally
daughters.
Chasing you.
And so
well, thanks, right?
Yeah, and he's licensed, and but he's taken over some of the podcasts, and he's growing a lot, doing great. And we got some big deals down there. So yeah, so we want to bring together the best of the best: financial advisors, CPAs, luxury realtors, commercial real estate syndicators, experts and investors in cryptocurrency. And our main focus right now is cryptocurrency, but I want to let you know the Deferred Sales Trust works for any highly appreciated asset, including businesses, primary homes, stock, public or private, GP interest, LP interest. And so we're going to typically just talk about the vision, which we just did just now. We're going to talk about the deal close story of the week and or some of the challenging stories of the week, and then just open it up for frequently asked questions. So that's kind of the format. Along the way, though, I want you to feel free to put in the chat a question that you might have, and then we'll open it up kind of here in about 10, 15 minutes for open questions. So that being said, Jake, we're working on a number of deals. And we do want to actually want to get an update and see what Jake is thinking on an NFT artwork deal that we've been working on and some of those challenges there. And then I'll touch on the deal close story of the week. So let's start with them in the reverse order. Jake, what's kind of your assessment of that deal, some of the thoughts and challenges with the deal, and any feedback or share some wisdom here with everyone listening?
Absolutely. So you have artwork made by the artist. So that's a little bit different. This is almost like equipment made by the manufacturer. It could be deemed as inventory. So this is a slightly different conversation piece than other items that are typically looked at from a capital gains perspective. However, some of the same rules can still apply. It has to be tweaked a little bit different. And that's why we have the brain surgeon, we have Todd Campbell and Campbell Law and everything that they do that can make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed so that we don't get ourselves into a situation, especially if we're talking about $100 million, where we're not sure about one thing or another. Interestingly enough, the sale of inventory or the sale of inventory of the artist's paintings that are being sold for the first time, not resold for a gain, can be done. And again, like I mentioned, the secret sauce is mixed in a little bit differently, but it works all the same. And it's an exciting prospect still to this day, right? That would be my consensus, is that we're working actively with them to try and make this go forward and to be a big thing. They're progressing every day. It seems a little bit more with the buyer. And so as soon as we can get some contracts in place and something of actual substance to give over to the attorney, I think we'll be making some real traction.
Yeah, and it's also NFT too, which is kind of cool. So it's not just artwork, but they're making it into NFTs. The amazing artist and an amazing thing. And so we're trying to bring all the pieces together, getting comfortable with the team, with the legality, with and all of those little details. And so that's going to be exciting. And then the other part about it is the outcome, right? So part of what their vision is not only to defer the tax, but then use some of the funds tax deferred to go buy real estate, to go build buildings, build art galleries, and an amazing, cool vision that we're hoping to be a part of. But that's the power of this. You can exit cryptocurrency, tax deferred, or NFTs or artwork or business or anything kind of that's highly appreciated. It's got to be $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain. That's our minimum. But once it's in the trust, it's kind of like a self-directed IRA. It's kind of like a funding source because it owes you the money, back, because this is what you're doing. You're lending the funds to the trust, but then the funds can partner with you to go build and buy real estate, which is really powerful, right? Because we're traditionally locked to the old Blockbuster 1031, which 1031, remember, only works for investment real estate. It doesn't work for primary homes, doesn't work for businesses, doesn't work for cryptocurrency. And so knowing what does work and what you're trying to achieve, which is the most important thing, which is clarity. We want to make sure that before you work with us or the Deferred Sales Trust or anyone else, clarify what the goals and objectives are, the motivations behind those goals and objectives, and then find the team to help you achieve that. And so that is also why we're here. So that being said, Jake, we spent some time in Cabo San Lucas, right? And we are looking at we were speaking with a lot of folks, right? And in particular, looking at ways to help those that are not only multimillionaires, but even billionaires to exit with estate tax. So for our listeners getting to know the Deferred Sales Trust, not just on the capital gains tax part of it, would you explain the value of this for estate tax elimination?
Absolutely. In fact, that might be where some of the biggest value lies, depending on the total gross amount of your assets that are being sold. Essentially, this looming estate tax, or death tax as we call it, is a real game changer for a lot of families and a lot of estates. Essentially up to 40% on today's rates, but I kind of call it the government's biggest mousetrap to solve some of their debt issues, is by decreasing what the annual exclusion, not the annual, but the lifetime exclusion is there. So essentially everything over married filing joint, 22 million and whatever, right? Would be subject to a 40% tax if it just passes on normally without any additional planning. The nice thing about what we're doing today is we're taking today's value of what our assets being sold by utilizing the Deferred Sales Trust. We're able to move that out of the estate. And so that all future growth and everything else that might be added to that going forward happens outside of a person's estate and doesn't chip away at that 22 million anymore.
Yeah. And so do we have to give any of it away to charity or do any gifting or buy a bunch of life insurance? Like, talk about some of the previous, I call them Blockbuster exit strategies, but can have their place too, no doubt. But talk
Absolutely.
about how the Deferred Sales Trust is like Netflix on that.
Right. A lot of those other strategies still pertain, but at a lesser extent. No longer do you need to have a $100 million life insurance policy if that's the total amount of all your assets. Essentially, you can cover what you feel would be necessary for your family and the longevity and the business continuity of what you have going on. And you can plan on utilizing the Deferred Sales Trust as a continual vehicle that the beneficiaries of that trust, as well as the creditor, continue to pass on to your legacy, but the assets growing inside are no longer subject to that estate or death tax. And so it no longer makes disproportionate your other planning needs, and it provides a better balance overall, utilizing multiple strategies rather than just, as you mentioned, Brett, the blockbuster of just get a really big fat life insurance policy, or just, having everything siloed in one area as your solution, but providing a greater balance because of the flexibility of putting timing back in the control of the individual rather than the government on when you pay taxes on how much.
Absolutely, which leads into the deal close story of the week, and this
So
comes
that was
out
very high level.
That is very high level, right? And these are it's all particular to your circumstance, and so everything we're saying, we work with the tax attorney and CPA who created the Deferred Sales Trust and has faced the audits, for those who are wondering, over a dozen no change IRS audits, thousands of closes, billions under management, and they're the ones that do that. My role is the financial advisor. Jake's role is, my role is a trustee. Jake's role is the financial advisor. Not to be confused with the two. We got to keep separate, and that's how we work as a team to execute this. The thing you'll learn quickly with a lot of the stuff that we're saying is it's not just the strategy or the concept or like setting up an LLC, which is very common, or setting up a living trust. It's the team of professionals it takes to execute this along the way. This is a business trust partnered with an installment sale for IRC 453, and collectively, it's a team that's going to execute this. And my role, I like to say, is kind of like sometimes like an offensive coordinator, and then Jake's role, or like a COO, Chief Operating Officer. Jake's is like the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, and then the client or the note holder is like the CEO, meaning they must approve of all investments, and they have their risk tolerance that they fill out, a questionnaire that they fill out. And if they're married, their spouse does the same. All of these things that work together, but it's like sitting in a boardroom and we're saying, how do we get the money back to note holder with plus the rate of return? And then how do we take this? And I also liken it to like a Rubik's Cube. And sometimes we get a Rubik's Cubes that are all disjointed and out of sync. And how do we move it in such a way that the tax flow and the cash flow matches what the client is trying to achieve? And that's what we love doing. We love solving problems, working with families, working with family offices, working with high net worth individuals, but also working with their trusted professionals to be able to provide this. And so it's kind of like one team, one dream, Jake, right? One dream for tax deferral. What do you think?
No, I like that. That's definitely something that we should coin right there.
Yeah, EXP already has, but we can use it for tax flow. One team, one dream. So cool. So that's. So let's take it to the deal close story of the week. So this comes out of the great state of Texas. I always say that I've yet to meet someone I don't get along with in Texas. And number two, I've never met someone in Texas that wants to pay tax, right? They're out of all the states in the union. I mean, California, some people may like paying taxes. I don't know. I've grown up here and it can be brutal, but definitely Texas, we don't want to pay tax. Now we want to do legal things that work. And so this particular client, he and his wife own real estate. They've done a lot of development. They've done a lot of rentals, and they're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And like a lot of folks, they found us on the internet and on YouTube, on a podcast, and they started to learn about this thing, thought it was too good to be true, concerned that it would or wouldn't work, have some very large transactions coming here in the near future, but had a small one that was a live deal. And what was cool, our typical minimum is $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain, unless you can combine, two transactions of $500,000 each. That'll get you over those $1 million thresholds. That's if it's real estate. Now, if it's cryptocurrency, we have a little nuance there in that you can have 20 coins that equal $1 million. And because we can kind of seamlessly transfer that, we have an exception there. However, for them, they only had like a $260,000 deal. So, but it had a pretty low basis. And and they're high net worth individuals. And so they said, you know what, Brett, we're going to be adding more to this if it works out, but we like this because it's kind of like a test drive, right? We get to kick the tires, we make sure there's no like fires getting lit here, nothing happening where we're going to get surprised by it. So why don't we do it on this first one, knowing that the ROI on that isn't necessarily great standalone for the investment side of things, but the ROI for their education and their comfort level is huge, right? Because they get to test it on a smaller amount, and they go, we like that they're going to use it for the other ones too, but we'll want to use it for this first one just to financial advisor, watch the funds, how the investment flows, the documents, like just getting comfortable with that. And I said, great, that's a great reason to do it. And as long as they had clarity on that it's not going to be a great ROI on the tax savings because it's smaller, they were fine with that. So anyways, we closed, and that was great. And now the funds are sitting in the bank. We're looking at different investment opportunities right now. And so that is Dallas, Fort Worth, new clients. Jake, any thoughts, feedback on that?
No, I would say that this is quite often, as you explain it, with the, how'd you say, the comparison with baseball, in the sense that maybe this isn't the home run, this isn't the $1 million, capital gains concern where we're going to pay 200 plus, thousand in capital gains tax plus the 3.8 Obamacare, plus if you're in the state of California, this state income tax, right? It's not really the big pain moment, but as you mentioned, it's definitely a base hit, and it gets the client playing the game and gets them excited about what's going on, helps them kick the tires, learn what the process is like, and helps them rinse and repeat, which is, what we want people to be able to do.
Perfect. And if you have questions, you put them in the chat, or if you have raise your hand, you have any questions or thoughts. I do want Jake to touch on the cryptocurrency deals for those who are coming for the first time that have closed. Would you touch on the Bitcoin client of ours who was working for a big tech company in 60 seconds or less? Go.
Absolutely. This wonderful, amazing lady working for a big tech company put $50,000 into Bitcoin. Time rolled on, 50,000 turned into 50 million. Wow, right?
And he might have stalled there, so we'll see. That was like a drop the mic statement.
Looking at what she'd have to pay in taxes, joint venture with I'm sorry, was I not working very well there?
We got you on the wow part. So you said 50,000 to 50 million, and then it cut out. So just keep going from there.
Okay, right, very good. So 50,000 into 50 million, and then recognizing what she'd have to pay in taxes should she just proceed forward normally. We presented the Deferred Sales Trust to her, helped her understand what she wouldn't necessarily have to pay in taxes should you utilize this business trust going forward. She accepted that. She kicked the tires with $5 million, took $4 million and invested because she didn't have to pay the taxes, she decided to do a joint venture, something a little bit more giving to the community than she would have otherwise considered had she had to pay taxes. And we've invested the other $1 million in the market, which provides her with monthly income and a comfortable way of life. So she's happy. She's accomplishing goals that she didn't ever think that she was going to reach or achieve by helping the community. And she is enjoying the process so far and ready to, as Bitcoin comes back up out of the lull, do it again. Rinse and repeat.
With an extra 1.85 million of tax, right? I mean, of tax that's deferred. And that's really the beauty, right? So instead of having about 3 million after tax, she has 5 million with the Deferred Sales Trust, right? So that's extra 1.85 to work with to help her accomplish the goals and dreams that she has. Really cool. And we're so excited to be a part of that. So that being said, I want to open up for questions, and we've got some new folks here. So I'm going to just start calling some names, but also Pierce too. Any thoughts or questions on that? Feedback? Rebecca, Gordon, we've got, I think we have Andrew on as well. We want you guys to unmute and chat or send something here for us.
It's all awesome. All good stuff.
Sam, welcome Sam. Sam, what's going on, man? I'm gonna be calling you there a little bit. We had a podcast together, Sam, and met Sam at Best Ever Conference. Sam is the man here. Sam, give a little bit, since you're a first time guest here, give a little bit about your story and then your thoughts on the Deferred Sales Trust so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think my story, we invest in RV parks and boat and RV storage, run a daily podcast called the High Scale Commercial Real Estate Show. which Brett just came on here for the second time. I think his show will go live in the next 30 or 40 days or so. But yeah, I think it's a really cool product. The more I understand about it, the more unique it is, especially as I'm out there making offers on deals, because you get, one of two things. If somebody's like, hey, I'm going to have a $5 million net gain on the sale of this asset, and say they're 65 or 70, they go, what am I going to do with it, once I sell it? So for a lot of people that maybe aren't ready to get out of the game, it's a great way for them to not pay all that money in tax, and also an alternative to a seller carryback. So say somebody really, if they do want to exit and they don't want to actually just sell the property, or sell the property owner finance, which is a second option for them to not necessarily pay all the tax up at front. I think this is a great option I can present to sellers. They say, hey, look, go ahead and sell it for full price, and just deal with Brett on a deferred sales trust.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll touch on too, like sometimes people say, well, why not just do a traditional seller carryback, right? Because isn't that what the deferred sales trust is? Well, yeah, it's that plus a business trust. And a traditional seller carryback, the reason a buyer wants that is typically they can get in for a lower down payment, which is cool for the buyer, but the seller then forgoes their 1031 exchange, right? Also, typically a buyer sometimes can get lower interest rate financing than seller carryback. Depends on how you structured the deal. But basically, the deferred sales trust takes a traditional installment sale and 10x it. Makes it, instead of 5 years, it can go for 50 years. Instead of, you can go for 100 years. I mean, we set up in 10-year increments, but you can continue to expand the life of deferral, right? Versus just paying it all up front. Also, you can diversify, so the funds can go back into real estate funds. It can go back into stock market and go into some cryptocurrency, and it's back into some active or passive deals. So it gives you this flexibility of not having all of your equity tied to one single property or one single buyer that you might have to foreclose on. And so I always say we're in the business of solving problems and giving options for sellers to choose. So the question is, what's their problem? What are they trying to solve? And then what option can you provide to unlock that value, or that piece that says, oh my gosh, Sam, everyone was just telling me traditional installment sale, or everyone was just telling me 1031 exchange, but you brought a nuance. You kind of brought me a hybrid. And because of that, I might be willing to sell and do a deal with you. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think what Sam's saying applies to, our space is just multifamily apartment buildings, and it's the same thing, right? Like a lot of people are sitting on an incredible amount of appreciation. And we've actually been talking the last couple of weeks about how there's going to be just a flood of deals coming up in the next year because people are sitting on this appreciation. And because they're also concerned about inflationary headwinds or cap rate increases affecting their value going forward. So there's going to be a lot of sales, right? And one thing you can do to differentiate yourself is to sort of say to the seller or to the broker, hey, this is a solution that can sort of thread the needle, allow you to liquidate without having to have that giant tax liability. So it's a great tool in the tool belt for buyers as well as for investors.
Yeah, very well said. And by the way, a little caveat too, like what not to do. I've gotten literally 3 calls in the past 2 weeks of a company that starts with an I and ends with an X. It's a 1031 exchange company that these people are like trying to use the deferred sales trust, and they're blocking it every which way. And one was yesterday, a guy out of Florida, and he's a doctor, and he's got about a $2 million deal. And it's it's a $3.2 million deal. His basis was right around 2, and he's in like day like 30, and he's not finding a property. And he goes, Brett, I'm with this company, and they won't cooperate. What do I do? I'm like, you do everything you possibly can to fight, because it's going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax if you don't. And then number 2, you never ever use them ever again, right? You never use an accommodator. So the education of your broker is really important too, because they don't necessarily know about the deferred sales trust, or they're just using qualified intermediaries that they don't realize are either negative or neutral or just won't cooperate with the deferred sales trust. By the way, we have deferred sales trust companies. We have a whole program to help you defer the capital gains tax as a backup plan in case it fails. So you want to make sure that you are getting the word out and you're not putting yourself in a position where you have no option. And we ask the question like, why won't they cooperate? We don't really know. They don't really give us a great answer, except for they don't do that, and they're not going to cooperate. So keep that in mind, that you're not working with a qualified intermediary that's going to put you in a bind. Go ahead, Andrew.
I'll just add to that we just closed on a deal last week where we, for the first time, had two 1031s come into our deal. One was the syndication of a prior apartment building that we purchased, and one was just a guy with $1 million gain, right? But in both cases, we were very careful, just to what you're saying, Brett, to work with qualified intermediaries that understood what we were doing, got the concept, and would work with us. We were very particular because we worked with other QIs in the past that just want to do very plain vanilla transactions. They don't understand whether it's DST or the syndication world. And you find yourself working against them, not with them, or educating them, and then they're kind of slow. And so, not all QI qualified intermediaries are created equal. And you really want to work with smart people that have been around this area for a while, understand it, have done a similar transaction before. It can make a big difference because time kills deals. And if you're working with people that don't understand it and they want to slow it down, they don't want to press that send button on that wire, whatever it is, your deal might fail. So I definitely agree with what you're saying, Brett.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That is so important for everyone to grasp there, right? Because who you hire and who you work with matters. And it matters to the hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars of tax. And these things need to be set up prior to certain deadlines. And without setting them up prior to, you're putting yourself in a position where you're going to get hammered. And we don't want you to get hammered. We want you to get deferred and have freedom and opportunity. By the way, Brennan, I know Brennan joined last week. He was a little bit late. I'm going to call on him now because it'd be cool to hear a little bit about his story and his focus. Brennan, you want to unmute yourself and say hi?
Yeah, how's everyone doing? So a little bit about me. We joined up at OwlFi group here, and no, we're definitely working on a case right now with some warrants that's going to be over $1 million in capital gains, right? So this is potentially going to be a really good solution for the end client.
And walk me through your profession and where you're located, and then walk us through those warrants because that sounds a little technical. I'll make sure everyone understands it.
Yeah, so out in Kansas City, and we work with Jake, and we're working with Jake on this case, right? So they have warrants that are basically give them the right to have $1. So it's $1 with 25 is looking like it's going to be the actual price at time of sale, right? So the difference between that is going to be the capital gains that they're going to be experiencing.
Got it. Okay, cool. And then in Kansas City, Missouri, how is it cold over there? What's going on? Like, how far
unfortunately,
are you from,
it was nice for a short period of time, and then of course it was Kansas City, and so the rain just wanted to come in and wanted to drop to about 40 degrees and get disgusting out. So,
do you go to the Lake of the Ozark, or is that frozen over too? What's going on there?
I have no idea about that. So we're about 3 hours away from there. We're on the Kansas side.
Very cool.
Little spot, Lenexa.
All right. Well, hey, glad to have you. Thanks for sharing that. That's really cool. I've never done like a warrant deal before, but it sounds like a Western. I know it's nothing to do with that, but it's a cool name. I like to see close the Deferred Sales Trust warrant deal. Like that'd be fun. So any thoughts?
Can you dive into what a warrant is and what it means?
Yeah. So it's basically the right to purchase shares at a particular price.
Like an option?
Yeah, very similar to that. So the client can purchase the stock at $1. So they have the right to do that, and then sell would be $25. So then they're going to have that difference is going to be capital gains.
So is this mainly for people who are in companies that go public or IPO or something like that, and they've already?
Yeah. So this situation's a tech startup that is going to be going public.
Right on.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's great. Any other questions, thoughts from Andrew, Sam, Gordon? I'll call on Gordon too. We haven't heard from Gordon yet. And Gordon, I see with EXP, that's really cool. We got Joseph. Hey, Nico's on the line. Nico, what's happening? Are you there?
I am here.
Nico's a client of mine. Nico, how are we doing? You want to walk through so far how the outside LLC investment went? I know we talked about it about a month ago, but I think it'd be cool for everyone to hear from you how the trust partnered with you to buy this property. You ready?
Sure. I'll give you a quick synopsis, and I'll say that I'm always the pain in the ass client. I think I always end up doing complex situations.
She's not.
So-
You're not, Nico. Keep going.
So basically, I sold a highly appreciated asset that I'd owned for 20 plus years in the San Francisco Bay Area. Pretty big capital gain. I had taken some money out, so I was looking at basically getting nothing out of it once I paid all the taxes to California, federal, et cetera. So I ended up doing a partial 1031 exchange, and then the rest of it I put into the DST. So the money's been sitting there. We've been investing it just in some kind of liquid assets, waiting to see if something came along. And a friend of mine approached me in San Francisco for a deal, probably about half price on a San Francisco house that I just couldn't pass up. So I ended up partnering with the trust. We created a LLC to buy that house with me as 80% owner, the trust is 20%. That's just kind of the legal format we did. And then I used the cash from the DST so that I wasn't putting any of my cash in to buy this property in San Francisco, which I now own.
It's amazing. Nico, by the way, optimal timing, right? You said the key thing. You got a call from somebody who occasionally will send you off-market opportunities, right? And said, hey, if you can jump on this now, you can buy this, and you saying potentially 50% off in one of the hottest markets in the world, San Francisco too, right? So just talk about that, what the Deferred Sales Trust means to you to be able to have the cash ready to go, and how quickly we also moved it to make this happen for you.
Yeah, so basically it was a situation where someone was approached my friend and said, if you can find me a buyer to close in 2 weeks without inspecting it. It was kind of a complicated deal, but that's why I got the price that I did. If you can find a buyer, then I'll give you the sale. And he's a broker, so he's like, hey, are you interested? And I said, yeah, I'm interested, but let me try and work it out, because I know it's going to need fix up and et cetera, et cetera. So it was basically a 2-week close. I actually ended up doing hard money loan on part of it, so I didn't put any money into it. And now I have the funds to both purchase it and to do the remodeling on it.
Which is really cool, by the way, right? So the trust not only can help purchase, but it can also provide capital for the remodel and or brand new construction. And so essentially, Nico, is tax deferred, optimal timing. This is the reason I started the company right here, was for this ability versus, and the property you sold, I think, Nico, was almost 2 years ago. It was a year and a half ago, at least.
It was January of last year. So
yeah,
just over a year ago.
Right. So the 180 days is been doubled, right? So that would never have worked for the 1031 because you have to identify within 45 days. And so this is the case study for why we do what we do. It's called optimal timing. Buy high, sell low. Don't buy high and overpay in 180 days for a property you didn't really want to buy just to defer the tax. That's the 1031 Blockbuster method. What Nico just explained is the Deferred Sales Trust Netflix method, right? Optimal timing. In the meantime, her powder was dry. It was liquid. It was available. Jake, any thoughts on that?
No, absolutely. So again, control and flexibility, being able to actually decide based on all other outside factors that affect you from a tax standpoint is critical. Again, for the market, being able to receive the largest possible gain that you can, getting the fair market value price, but then again, not having all these timing limitations, all these timing restrictions of rolling it over like a 1031, or not falling prey to all these other taxing agencies, because we're able to defer things forward and obviously snowball your investment with the gross proceeds net of attorney fees rather than taxes.
Perfect, Jake. I think we got most.
And then let me just add that I also really like the option that once I sell this, because my plan is to flip it, and obviously I'll have a huge short-term capital gain, that I'll roll that back into the trust.
A beautiful, beautiful thing. Isn't that so cool? Any questions or thoughts for anyone to Nico? By the way, I want to give you guys an opportunity. Anyone else? Because
I do have a question. So I was listening to a podcast or YouTube video or whatever it was the other day. And they were talking about a new law that's being introduced into California. It's like SB, like, I don't know, 1710 or whatever. But essentially, it's going to add an additional 25% tax to anybody who sells a house within 3 years. I'm not sure. Do what?
3 years of purchasing it. It's a short-term capital gain surcharge on a hold of 3 years or less in California.
Yes. It's not passed yet, but it's like going through the assembly or whatever. I was wondering if you guys have heard of it or whatever, and if the DST could block that.
So heard of it? you mean defer it?
No,
Yeah,
like
definitely heard of it. We'll see if it passes. It's kind of like the 1031 exchange, right? Like they're talking about taking it away. We'll see. You know what I mean? We'll see. So let's wait and see. I don't know, because then the other question will be what's in the details of the actual bill, right? And then the tax attorneys would have to review that. And how are they characterizing that? Like what exactly is that? So Jake, any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I mean, if it's more of like a transfer tax or an income tax or a capital gains tax. And so what exactly is going to be written into the code if it were to happen? That's something that we kind of just need to wait and see. And then we can plan around what does or does not happen, so that we will know whether or not the deferred sales trust is the right tool.
Yeah.
So
We have that
this is
here in
Rebecca.
Vermont.
Hey,
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Pierce,
Go ahead, Rebecca.
when
And then Gordon, you go after Rebecca.
hearing about that. Oh, am I coming in and out? Can you hear me?
You a little bit. You're good, Rebecca. Go ahead.
Okay. So on that 3 years, was that for like investment property and not your primary residence? I guess.
I don't know what they're gonna
Okay.
do.
So it's AB 1771. I was actually just reading it yesterday, the actual tax code. And it may apply to exchanges as well, the way it's written, although I'm no attorney. I just skimmed through it yesterday. But AB 1771.
And what they propose to what actually passes is like, it could be the Grand Canyon. So there's a lot of things that could change there. But Gordon, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Thank you, Brett. Pleasure to meet you in person here. If Vermont already has that, and they've had it for several years, land gains tax but it's graduated. So the longer you hold it, the less the tax is. But somebody's got to pay for the roads, right? I have a question about your availability to to meet with a prospect that I'm working with. I sent out 4 portfolios of explain the DST to some prospective sellers, and we're waiting to hear back from them. But I'd like to know if they wanted to talk with you, what's your lead time?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. You go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com and you can
Right.
you can click on live deal, and that'll give an application, and then you fill that out, and then that will give you a Calendly opportunity to book me once you fill that out. So we're pretty available. I mean, I'm sure I have some openings next week, but you just have to go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. And then Jake too. People want to get in touch with you, Jake. How would they get connected with you? Jake is still.
I had a pleasure of
Strategic
meeting
Tax
Jake
Solutions.
last week at he was on another Zoom meeting. So
Go ahead, Jake. Say that one more time. Jake is strategictaxsolutions.com.
That's
We'll say
right.
it
Yep.
for
So
him.
I guess
Yeah.
I was going to say I've got a website, Strategic Tax Solutions. Very good. Yeah, I keep battling with my internet devices.
It's Mazalon, right? Mazalon. So, okay, cool. So
Different
any other
devices, and
questions?
neither one is working. So sorry
Yeah.
about that.
It's okay, Jake. Thank you. Any
so
other
you're
questions?
about a week out. I should tell a client that we could talk with you in a week or so.
Yeah, and you could also invite him to this mastermind, right? Because if it's,
Okay.
sometimes we like to say live deals in the next 30 days or so, but I'm happy to spend time with them and you. But the goal would be to bring them to the mastermind so they can get a part of the community. They can ask their live questions so we could all answer them. But also, if they want to be confidential, that's cool too. You can go to strategictaxsolutions.com for Jake or capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Either one will get us all connected. Okay, Gordon? All right. Thumbs up. Great. And Jake also has a number 800-773-1848. 800-773-1848. Cool. All right. Anybody else? Anybody else? Questions, thoughts? Otherwise, I think we're probably good for the day. We may probably exhausted the value for the day, but I want to make sure that if anyone has any questions, thoughts. Wait, we have a chat here. Let me see who's in the chat. We have, okay. Should I reach out to a local QI to make them aware of the DST? Yeah, I mean, they're probably aware, Gordon. I say that in quotations because they were a competitor. The question is, who is the qualified intermediary that you know, like, and trust that you're working with that you want to make sure that they're going to accommodate for your client? And so it's more so just asking them the question, hey, are you going to accommodate for the deferred sales trust? Have you ever done a deferred sales trust before? Because that's the other thing too, because Andrew was saying, hey, we do these carve-outs with these TICs, and the challenge is not only if they're aware of it, but do they actually know what they're doing? Like, is it going to hold up your deal? Is it going to blow up the deal? I mean, you cannot mess these things up. They have to be perfectly done, and the timing has to be set up. Otherwise, the tax is triggered. The IRS gives no exceptions for this. So you're happy. You can call them and say, hey, I have a deferred sales trust opportunity. Are you going to accommodate? But really the question you should be asking is, have you ever done these before? And if the answer is no, the question is, why do you even want to work with them? Because they can mess it up. Why don't you just work with us, who has a qualified intermediary? We're not a qualified intermediary, but we work with another one that we're literally doing these every single week. I mean, I send them so many deals, and we have the systems all in place. So hopefully that answers the question, Gordon. But if somebody like really has to use this qualified intermediary, then just make sure that they'll actually cooperate. Okay,
Well,
Gordon?
there are no local attorneys that I've done 1031 exchanges with in the past, so.
Okay. Yeah, and that's cool too. Then we're happy to make new introductions. You know what I mean? Like, and maybe bring them on the mastermind and see, have them, whatever. But those are just some of the thoughts there. So other than that, anybody else? Questions, thoughts, comments?
When you guys, sorry.
Where would I find the language that goes into the purchase and sales contract?
So that would be NDA stuff, right? So
Yeah.
bring a
Okay.
live deal, Gordon, and we'll help you out. Just get with me
Okay.
offline, all right?
Yep.
Anybody else? Anybody else?
Well, just kind of a event drop that's going to be happening. I don't know if this is important, but you guys were talking about the NFT stuff, and I thought that was really interesting because the commercial support, we're going to be having a commercial real estate symposium April 25th through the 26th. So that would be a really cool, if anyone's interested. I don't know. Brett knows. It's going to be through the EXP world.
EXP commercial event is pretty cool. And on LinkedIn, you can look it up as well. It's on my profile. But if you're interested, it's Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank is going to be speaking, which is pretty cool. And it's in the metaverse. And it's like, it's some really smart people talking about commercial real estate and different things. So if you're interested, let me know. Leah, good plug. That's cool. And we can get you a guest pass and get you in there. Totally free. What else? Anybody else? Cool. I think that's it. Well, I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank everyone for showing up. And I want to encourage you to invite somebody next week. Invite the person who is your client, invite the CPA, invite the whomever, although CPAs are busy these days. I feel like they're all like slammed. We're slammed too, but we want to encourage you to keep taking action and to keep learning, as well as go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, and look for the book that's coming out soon with the Jake Miller is going to be in it. And then also the Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank will be in it, and a few other really smart people, including the Michael Blanc, who Andrew runs with, by the way. Andrew's with Nighthawk Capital, and some other really smart commercial real estate syndicators like Joe Fairless are going to be a part of it. So you can check that out. Building a tax deferred exit strategy in the next 30 days. Other than that, I wish everyone a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Light the pilot on your water.
Bye. Thank you.